Hello and welcome back to Movie Husbands. This is another episode of Movie Wars. Today we'll be talking about Pulp Fiction, which is a movie that I love and Matthew does not love.
So let me just start here by saying that I do really love and enjoy Quentin Tarantino movies.
Some.
Jackie Brown's probably my favorite. I love Kill Bill. I love Hateful Eight. My distaste for Pulp Fiction is probably going to be a hot topic here, but I have reasons for that. And unfortunately, I think Pulp Fiction has a lot of problems in terms of its dialogue and its story building. And
In its dialogue? Okay, whew. All right, let's go. All right, sure, let's go.
So there's nothing really about the dialogue that tells me where a character is and where they're going and where the story is and where it's going. And that's my biggest gripe with this film. And that just makes me feel bored. I feel bored during a lot of these scenes. I feel like I'm kind of like trudging my way through this film. But I think the main problem is that the dialogue doesn't really do much to inform the story and the characters.
I think that's something interesting because you're right, this movie does not use its dialogue to inform its characters. I just don't think it needs to. I don't think film always needs to do that. I think this dialogue is on an island by itself, being quirky and fun and interesting and certainly original. There's really not a lot of people that write dialogue like Quentin Tarantino. There are a lot of people that have tried after 1994. I just think that the movie doesn't really need to do that. I don't think it's interested in doing that. So I don't know if you're evaluating the film on what its intentions are.
They spent like minutes on this conversation about foot massages, which is pretty much just Quentin Tarantino's foot fetish. It's just like a little.
Oh, come on.
It's just a little like.
I agree that I don't like all the shots of feet in all his movies. I think that's weird. But I think the conversation is interesting. And once again, it doesn't need to have a point. Like, it's not there to have a point. Let me take you back to the first time I watched Pulp Fiction. So the first time I saw Pulp Fiction was in 7th grade, and my mom probably didn't realize how offensive of a movie this is. And I rented it from the library, and she had like no idea that this movie was, it has literally over 250 F-bombs in it. Anyway, so I watched this movie, and my whole life as a kid, I watched mostly mainstream stuff that has a linear story, stuff that you're talking about, films where you're talking about even films in childhood, like, say, Steven Spielberg films. They do all the things that you're describing, where all the dialogue is meant to inform the character, and it's supposed to drive the plot forward. And then I watch Pulp Fiction, and it just completely throws all of that out the window. It's a film that's so unhurried. It has no business in it has no interest in getting to its destination fast at all. It's just chewing the scenery of just great dialogue and fun, interesting, ironic characters. It is actually a great representation of postmodernism because the point is that it doesn't have a point.
That's fine. I'm completely cool with a movie not having a point. But I think there's these connections that still have to be made. I think a great example of this failure happened actually recently in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I feel like there was these scenes.
Sorry to back you up, is a movie that we're both a little lukewarm on. That we kind of like, but everyone else loved it, and we don't really get it.
Yeah, but I feel like it has the same exact problem. You have these freaking amazingly talented actors. You have these amazingly written scenes. But the problem is that all these things are supposed to build up to this kind of monumental moment at the end of the film. And in particular with Pulp Fiction, it's this moment where Samuel L. Jackson is at the diner, and he's kind of giving this monologue to the guy who's trying to rob the place. And I'm kind of invested in this moment, but the problem is that there's nothing preceding it that makes me care.
I just feel like it's like a slacker movie. I feel like it's like a hangout movie.
I wish there was something here that...
Sorry, I just have to interrupt you because I'm hearing myself like become the defense of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is really because people are like, dude, you don't get it. It's like a hangout movie, and I'm just like, no. I was like, it's boring. Nothing's happening. For some reason, Pulp Fiction, the hangout quality of it works for me.
It's very interesting how similar they are in what they care about and what they spend their time on. Because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood definitely has all these scenes that really aren't that meaningful. Like, especially that scene with Leonardo DiCaprio when he's filming that scene in the saloon. It's like this film drags on for like a half hour.
There's that terrific scene with Brad Pitt when he's kind of at... He's with, I can't remember exactly.
He's looking for his old friend, and he's kind of like run into this
Yeah, and he runs into
old hippie, like...
Yeah, and he goes into Bruce Dern's room, and it builds and builds, and you think something crazy is going to happen. Again, the visual language of that film is telling me I'm supposed to feel this way. Something big is coming. You're supposed to feel this tense and this kind of suspense at this moment. And then it just doesn't do anything in that scene. And to me, that's a miscommunication between me and the film. The film's telling me to feel this way, and I don't, so I find a flaw of that film. Whereas Pulp Fiction, I think, is telling me to feel, just hang out, just enjoy it, and I feel that way. So I don't find the flaw. I think a lot of the flaws that we're talking about come from a disconnect between how a film wants us to feel and how we're actually feeling. And I don't have that disconnect with Pulp Fiction.
I think I would have that understanding, and I feel like Quentin Tarantino was explaining that to me well enough in this film, but I feel like he's just not doing that here. Like, I feel like there's nothing really telling me that he doesn't care about these things, because I feel like he's putting things in the film that should be impactful. Like, in the most important scene I can think of is the scene at the end with Samuel L. Jackson, and he's talking about his kind of new understanding of this Bible verse. And this is so impactful, and this is a really big moment. And I feel like it's placed there purposefully for you to feel something for his character. It does do a job here in succeeding that for me slightly.
It comes the closest.
Yeah, it comes the closest that this movie possibly could come. It's these moments that I feel like are really great, and they should have more meaning, and there's pieces of it in there. I see it in there. But I feel like everything that came before it didn't really do enough to inform that ending. It seems to be that he's not interested, but I think he's interested, and I think he's just failing at it.
Interesting.
I think he really does care. I think he's thinking about, like, I think he cares that these characters are going somewhere and they're going to end somewhere. They all have an arc. Uma Thurman's character is a great example of this, is that I think she's actually one of my favorite characters in the movie. But I see so little of her. Same with Bruce Willis's character. It's like he kind of has these couple of scenes where you learn about him. I really do love the storyline about the watch, but I felt like it doesn't really mean much to me because we see so little of him. It's kind of like just thrown at you. And I just think he's failing in certain regards, especially with how much time we see each character, the actual dialogue and how it connects to their character development. It does kind of seem like this kind of, oh gosh, this is going to be bad. This kind of seems like some kind of like bros attempt at just like, here's this cool stuff, and oh, it'd be so cool if we just killed John Travolta's character and it'll just go back into the tub like this other movie from the French New Wave. Like, oh, that's so cool. But like, I am not like that. I need something kind of deeper than that.
I don't agree with you about that. However, I will say that Pulp Fiction is one of the films that is most commandeered by like film school bros. Like if you're ever at a party with a bunch of people that know about film and a Tarantino guy starts talking to you, it's a horrible time. It is one of the worst experiences. Sorry to anybody watching, but like I love Quentin Tarantino, but he does have these rabid followers that will, you know, shoot you to the death about Pulp Fiction.
You're worried about you're the one that's like advocating for Pulp Fiction. I'm the one that's going to be like caught by all these bros if they reach our comment section or something.
Nobody watches our videos. It's fine.
Like I said from the very beginning, is that there's so many films of Quentin Tarantino's that I really do love. I just think they do a better job of building character and story. And the dialogue is top-notch in all those films, but they just do something more.
You seem to have like one issue that you're just like sledgehammering.
Because I don't like the film. Yeah. And that's the whole reason for me not liking the film. Like, I wish I could like the film, but if none of these things connect, then why would I, like, what's making me care? Why should I care?
Because the film doesn't compel you, it may be something wrong with you, not the film. Seriously. It may be that you have a blind spot to a certain kind of filmmaking that you just can't identify with, that clearly like a whole host of people that know a lot about film identify with. I have a blind spot to kids' films. I have a blind spot to like really upbeat films.
Wouldn't say that's a blind spot. I would just say it's personal preference. If there's certain things that you look for in film and this film is not giving it to you, you're just not going to like it. But that doesn't make your opinion kind of like you're missing something or not valid. It means that you're seeing everything that you're seeing and you're just determining this isn't for me and this is the problem, this is the reason it's not for me.
Yeah, I think it's a getting it thing. It's not an intelligence getting it thing, but it's a being on its wavelength and just being like, this is what this is about, and I really like what this is about. There is really great writing in this movie. Like, it's, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I'm at the point where like the art is judging you. I can't even believe I have to justify the dialogue in Pulp Fiction.
It's ridiculous. I did. I said the dialogue
like
was
you
really
could
great.
you could even say like, oh, I don't like it, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense why people like this dialogue or how it was refreshing. For
I even said how the dialogue was really well done.
It's interesting to be sitting on like the same couch with somebody watching this movie, and you know, I'm kind of sitting there ready to be more critical of it because I loved it so much when I was smaller, and all the things you're talking about are the reason I find it so immersive. Like I'm hanging on every line, even though I could repeat what the next line is. There's some kind of energy to this movie that is just not replicated very often in movies to me.
Yeah, I just like I'm thinking of ending things so much here, just because the dialogue.
We talk about that movie a lot. We should just review it. You guys should watch it anyway.
Anyways, the dialogue in this movie, that has me hanging on by a thread.
I'm shocked that you're like hanging on the word of all of that. And she quotes a poem. I forget whose poem it is. She says a poem out loud for 2.5 minutes. Like, it's shocking to me that you're just. To me, I find that movie a little overboard sometimes.
If you go back and watch that movie for a second time, which I haven't done yet, but I could already see it. I could already visualize myself.
3 times.
Oh my God. I could already visualize myself seeing it again.
Yeah.
And thinking of those conversations that were happening in the car ride to his families at the very beginning. And just thinking about how those are really his thoughts being portrayed in her dialogue. You can have great dialogue. You can have great scenes. You can have great actors saying the great dialogue. But if it's not doing anything to progress what that movie is striving to do, and I get what you're saying, it's not tied up in these things. It's just trying to be a very fun movie in a sense and take all these things cinematically and put them together. Great, it gets an A+ for doing that. But if I don't care about any of it and how all those aspects connect with each other, then why would I enjoy a movie like that?
I got nothing. I mean, it's not like you beat me. I just think I just think that you're not on the movie's wavelength. I think you don't care about what it's doing. And I've said this 100 times, but I like how it doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's just so weird to me. I can't even fathom that, because I feel like that's the thing you enjoy most about film is when it does do that. And when I point to other films that have that same problem, or the problem that it is to me, it seems like you don't like those films, but this film you're okay with in that sense.
Maybe that's why I revere this film so much, because it's the exception to the rule. You know, when you think you don't like horror films and you see a horror film that really gets you, then maybe you're more inclined to like it because it's the surprise of the whole thing. You're right. I mean, a lot of the things you're talking about are things I don't like in movies. I really like it in Pulp Fiction, though.
All right, so that is our latest episode of Movie Wars. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like this video and let us know in the comments. Do you agree with Geoff? Do you agree with me? And we'll see you in the next video.